Alec, Ryan, thank you guys so much for joining the Stick Theory podcast. It's a pleasure with you two being my first joint episode for these. Hopefully, we're able to do more of these. And the biggest one, I know, Alec, you've been on here before, but Ryan, you haven't. How'd you come up with the name Pocket Nirvana?
Um, there was this book I was reading like 6 months before I started the account, called Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance. And I won't get into like the cliff notes of what the book is all about, but I just thought there were a lot of similarities between, kind of what he goes into in the book with, maintaining his motorcycle on a, long cross-country road trip and similarities with that and stringing and how like concept of stringing can apply to life and, the game itself. And hence Pocket Nirvana was born.
That's awesome. And Alec, if you want to kind of remind the audience how we came up with Heritage Spoons.
So the main draw was putting spoons in the name. So heritage was kind of just a random word that was chosen eh, to just sort of put before what's the word prefix to spoons. But spoons was always something we just kind of joked around, called our sticks growing up. So I thought it was a fun way to be lacrosse related. But
Yeah.
uh, yeah.
That's awesome. So, what kind of got both of y'all into the sport of lacrosse? Because it's not a super big sport overall. It's a pretty small community. What drew y'all to the sport?
I played baseball along with lacrosse like through middle school. My like fourth grade baseball coach was like, "You'd be great at lacrosse," and I think it was because I was small and it's easier to succeed in lacrosse as a smaller guy than it is in baseball for the most part. Um, and just kind of took it from there. I actually, despite me being small, somehow ended up in goal. So me being like, 4.5 feet tall with half the net above me and jumping to reach shots under the crossbar, still stuck with it.
That's awesome. And Alec, if you kind of remind us how you got into the sport.
I was doing it because my friends were doing it. It was the cool thing to do. No, so yeah, just got into it because my friends were into it and grew
Yeah.
from there.
All right. And
Never
then
been.
obviously, what do you guys? What was that?
I said he's never been good with peer pressure.
No, no, never, not once.
So, what kind of drew you guys to the stringing side of sport? Because obviously, lacrosse, small community as it is, not everyone really wants to learn how to string. So, what kind of drew you to that?
Alec, you want to take this one first?
Yeah, I can do that. So, um, it was just sort of the man. That's a tough question. You didn't ask me that last time. Uh, no. So what drew me to stringing? I guess. Well, the comeback to stringing. So I strung a couple sticks when I was a younger kid, and they were what they were. Looked up pictures online and just tried to replicate. Um, but then what brought me back into it, I was in a Dick's Sporting Goods and saw a Warrior Razor 2.0, just sitting there for $5, picked it up, picked up a stringing kit, and just kind of hobby turned into an obsession from there for me. Um, Now I like to try and teach people. So like Ryan, for example, I had taught him how to string, and
That's not
now
true.
he's just phenomenal.
Wow, wasn't expecting a compliment there. I guess more of
Well,
a compliment
well,
to yourself.
I mean, yeah, it's you're a product of your teaching, I would think.
Can't argue with that.
So, Ryan, what got you into the stringing side of things?
Man, I was like 9 or 10, I think. I had two sticks. They were both brine blazes on F10 power grips. One had hard mesh and one had soft mesh, like factory strung. So it was, the single U and then a nylon. And I noticed the hard mesh and the soft mesh ones felt so differently. I was like, these are the same stick, but they play so differently. They throw different, feel different. And I've always kind of liked tinkering and changing stuff and like, customizing. So I, wanted to learn how to string. So, picked up I think it was like a brine monster mesh kit at Modell's, um, and went through with my dad and took, 3.5 hours to figure out the top string and sidewalls and everything. But then there was, we had a store nearby. So in like middle school, I strung for them like under the table. Um, just, really wanted to learn. as much as I could about it. And it was just, a sport that I really liked, kind of playing into, my affinity for customizing and tinkering with stuff.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's kind of been a lot of what a lot of people say, like the customization aspect, and because
Yeah.
that's one of the cool things about our sport. I think, like obviously it's fun to play and everything, but there's no other sport out there that you can customize as much as like your stick, your tape, however that is. Like everything about the sport is almost customized to you, which is always super awesome to see.
Oh yeah. It's very
So
unique to the sport.
yeah, what's kind of changed the most about your guys' processes over the years? Obviously, Alec, you're designing this Entree mesh now. Ryan, like, what's kind of changed? Like, you're stringing in middle school, like, you're getting better and better and better. What changed over time?
I think just, building strong fundamentals of like understanding what does what with stringing, where, early on you're kind of copying patterns because that's how it looks and you don't fully understand why it does what it does, but you know that it works. And then being able to branch off from that. Um, I had a more complete thought than this, but it's trailed off on me.
Well, I'll kind of jump in because I think we
Yeah.
kind of share a viewpoint on this where you just it's not saying you couldn't jump into the deep end, go look up a tutorial on how to do, woven sidewalls and inside out, whatever you want to, how fancy you want to get with it. But to really understand how the pocket is going to function and is it going to function the way you intend it to is a really strong skill to have. And that's when you can really get even further into the customization and and really tune into what you're what how you play. And your stick is an extension of that. So
Well said.
Yeah. So obviously with that, like you're getting better and better. Every you kind of develop your stringing philosophy or almost a design theory over the years. What would you guys say is that for you?
I don't know
I
if
don't want to speak for him, but I
I
know
go
for a
for it.
long time
Yeah,
he
you've
was
seen plenty of my stringing. I'd like your take on what you think the answer is for me.
so he he was doing a lot of production strings. So how we actually met, um, not to not to get too far ahead, was um Ryan was working at a plate again that I visited quite frequently because I was buying every head under the sun. They used to get some gems. They still do, but now they come out of my collection.
Yeah.
Not to brag, uh but anyway, so Ryan was doing a lot of production stringing, and that's sort of where we met. Um, so I think he really does build off of that functionality. Like he's not doing this to be pretty or his pockets are they're okay. I mean, they're not the best I've ever seen, but no, they're what's a nice way to put this? They're playable, right? So that's what's really important here is can this be used and can it be used effectively? And he's really nailed the formula on that. So I will give him at least a compliment there.
I mean, I'd say like 70% of the sticks that I strung on like peak spring season or like preseason had like four patterns that work for most heads, you know, depending
Yeah.
on age, position. You can't go wrong with three interlocks, just, empty knot, and then some well-placed ones and skips goes a long way. You can do a lot with those. And if
Yeah.
you've got, 40 heads to string in a weekend, I stuck to what worked and didn't have to go back. But I'm also notorious for, with my own sticks, stringing it, redoing it, redoing it again,
I've seen
which
him
is,
string the same head probably more times than I can even count at this
Yeah,
point.
that's definitely a learn
Just
right
to
there.
well, to learn.
I've got to be a sadist too, because I love using bootlace. And when you really lock in bootlace, where you kind of feel it like crinkle in the knot, that's not coming out easily. So it would take twice as long to unstring something as it would to string it. But I still did it because for the love of the game.
So I think Ryan, you alluded to it earlier. How do you guys approach different player positions, or would you string more playing styles nowadays?
I mean, when I was stringing for various age groups, I would definitely just, ask them when they dropped off the stick, what position do you play at? Um, Ask them to kind of describe like their play style, how they like their stick to throw. If they brought in their own stick, I would usually, try to test it out before on string it if they liked how it was currently strung. But really just trying to, match their preference as best as possible. And now I pretty much only string for myself. So
Yeah, you got that preference down pretty well.
yeah, I do. I do know myself pretty well.
All right, cool. So obviously, I think just going off your pages, Alec, you've probably become a lot more of the aesthetic driven stringer of the two of y'all, I would say. Whereas Ryan, I would probably say you're more the performance focus. Is there what kind of led you to those different avenues? Because obviously you're both stringing, you're both pretty good, but y'all both took it two different routes. What kind of led to that?
I think the most important thing is function, which I think is where Alec and I split.
Sometimes they just gotta look nice. Sometimes they can be both though. That's
Yeah.
more where I try and lie these days. I mean, I will say I have plenty of sticks that throw better backwards than they do forwards, but do they look pretty? Absolutely. And I was doing some capacity production stringing it along with Ryan, um, and I never took on quite as much responsibility at the store as him. I'm willing to admit that now. He was definitely the lead stringer, but again, um, you know, it can be both pretty and playable. And I think we're pretty. If we haven't already struck that with Entrea Mesh, I think we're getting pretty close.
Yeah. That is awesome. I would say I'd probably lean more to the performance focus, but I'd still want it to look good. Because true, like I've seen a lot of sticks that work well, but they don't look like good at all. And I'm just like, how are you throwing with that? With like kids scoring 4 goals a game. Like, I'm not gonna say anything. If it
Oh
works,
yeah.
it works.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm 100% guilty of just not posting sticks that I'm like, this works well, but it's too ugly to post. Um, and you can also, you see sticks either, in real life or on the internet where you see it and you're like, that thing definitely throws dimes. Like you can just tell, like
Hmm.
stringing up sticks, generally like what pocket shape will do what. And you've also seen some where you're like, that looks terrible, but I bet it throws dimes. Um, I just
that's
avoid post.
like
I can't
I
be
will
picky.
say that's like 90% of my trads is the worse they look, the better they throw.
Mm.
And the better they look, the worse they play. I don't know why. It's just the way it is. Um,
Hey.
It
but
defies logic. It is true
yeah.
though.
Yeah, so do you guys believe there's such thing as a perfect pocket? Like obviously there's probably good beginner pockets, but is there a single pocket out there that could be all encompassing for all players?
I think that's like what achieving pocket nirvana is understanding that there is no perfect pocket and being okay with that. But you can still pursue it. And in that pursuit, that's where greatness comes from.
That's well said.
Mic
Dang,
drop.
that was pretty well. That
Didn't
was I didn't expect him to pull something like that out, but um,
know I was a philosophizer.
yeah. I would agree with what Ryan just said, but I think there are maybe easier pockets for people to get into the sport with. Maybe learn the basics, fundamentals on a certain style of pocket, maybe something with just something easy throwing, easy catching, and then sort of lock in from there how, oh, maybe I want a little bit more grab, maybe I want a little bit more hook. Um, Maybe I want a smoother release. But yeah, there's absolutely no perfect pocket for any. There's perfect pockets for each individual player, but not across the board.
Yeah.
There you
So
go. There's something deep for you now, Ryan.
Yeah, let me chew on that for a minute.
yeah, so what would be so obviously you both string a lot for yourself right now. What would your perfect pocket for yourself look like?
This big
Hmm.
old bag, a little bit of whip.
Yeah, I'm about the same. I probably like a little less whip than Ryan does. Probably a few more shooting strings in there. Um,
Get extra.
yeah, yeah, just a couple extra. Um, but yeah, no. Other than that,
Love it.
I
Honestly, my perfect pocket right now is that one-off piece of blue and yellow Andrea in the Bone 3V,
That's
where
awesome.
I
there's
can't agree. That one does play pretty well. That one throws pretty well. It's something similar in a Torque 3 that
yeah,
I've been kind of wanting to restring, but um,
It throws too
it's
good.
it throws too good. So,
yeah.
and that's the
There's
cycle.
there's
You
zero
just
pocket definition, but somehow the ball stays exactly where you need it to.
Yeah.
It's magical. Like that, the first time I threw it, that was like I haven't been like, oh wow, this is perfect on the first throw in a while. So that one's not getting on strong, which is unfortunate because I really want to string the 3V more and see what I can do, but I don't want to touch that pocket. And I
Yeah.
don't want to buy another 3V.
That's the problem I'll run into. So one thing I copied it, but I have a DNA diamond in part of my personal collection. Like every ounce, like I have some new colors and everything. Like I want to restring it, but I'm like, it's already so perfect how it is. I don't know if I want to just take the time to undo it. If I don't like it, I got to redo it again. It's just,
Risky.
it's a vicious cycle.
It is.
it really
So
is.
This hobby gets expensive real quick.
that it does. So obviously, let's kind of move in like innovation and gear. That's one like you guys have been stringing for a minute now. Like, what are some of the current heads you're seeing now that your favorites, or if there's even some older heads that you think potentially perform better than some of these modern ones?
Hmm. Performance bet East. Okay, let me think about this one for a second.
And work it out.
Well, you're starting. I mean, you're really starting to see things imitate older pieces of gear. You got the Evo V just came out recently, and that's sort of reminiscent of a 4X. And I think that's sort of a nod to companies listening to people and taking in the feedback. And you know, I can't speak to how everyone makes design decisions, um, but it just that's what it comes across as, which is pretty cool to see gear sort of going back to what it not not going back but drawing on previous
Hmm.
iterations. um I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah. And that's one thing I do. Like, so I think they'll take the Evo V, for example, seeing that come out. I know when the QXO and the QX2O came out, a lot of people weren't. The QXO wasn't as bad, but a lot of people weren't big fans because of how far. Like the QX2O, in my opinion, like didn't even look like an Evo to
No, it
me.
didn't.
Like it came out, I was like, they're calling it that, but I'm like, that's not. It doesn't have the Evo sidewalls that have been consistent since the first ever one. And so I do agree with that. It's kind of cool. Warrior kind of listened a little bit and they're just like, hey, these guys like the Evo 4X. It's probably one of the favorite versions of it. Let's copy that and update it a little bit. So what is the, obviously, Alec, you have your entree mesh and your like your product development, your testing. Ryan, have you been able to be involved in any form of like a product development or a testing thing or there's stuff you can't go into, don't worry about that, obviously.
I don't think I've got nearly as many secrets as Alec does on the development side of things. A few years ago, was involved with Powell doing their Craftsman project, and we were in like early stages of testing mesh, and um, I don't think much ever really came of that mesh being released. But seeing, I think we got like 4 or 5 different iterations of that development mesh, and seeing it improve and change based on the feedback that we gave was cool. I still have a couple pieces lying around, I think. But that was about the extent of it. I mean, now Alec will text me pictures of stuff, and I'm like, cool. And that's, the feedback that I give in the development cycle now.
Awesome.
Well, he's been pretty modest, but I think he's got second to me the the best collection of my prototypes out there is probably him in terms of quantity and quality. And yeah, no, I do feel like sometimes I bother him a little bit with my pictures of constant uh, new ideas, or not bother him necessarily, but maybe throw him for a loop a little bit because a lot of times I get a text back that says like, what am I looking at, or something along those lines.
But if I keep getting free cool new mesh that no one else has, I'll
It's
keep
kind of a
responding.
win-win. It's a
Hey,
kind of a win-win.
It
that's
is
not
a
something
win.
really to complain about right there.
Yeah, it's a good setup
Yeah, so
for my
obviously
office.
you two are Alec, you're developing the entree mesh. Ryan, it sounds like you're getting a lot of prototypes off of that. What are some innovations you think the industry, as far as stringing goes, could like still use?
Streaming wise, it's tough. I mean, obviously, I'm biased. I think Entree is doing some pretty never before seen stuff. I mean, even just like outside of the string side of things, I think like the materials can continue to improve, whether it's, the plastics. Um, the hill I'll always die on is and it's not even an innovation. It's, I guess, more of a regression just to bring back the X6 heads. I would be remiss to not mention that at some point in this podcast. So Greg or whoever's listening out there, bring him back.
Stash is gonna like that one a lot.
I know he does. Yep.
Yeah, so if you guys obviously Alec, you're kind of designing your dream mesh right now, but if you could guys could design your dream head, what would that look like?
Evo Pro X6, new plastic and more string holes, like DNA, OG DNA plastic, and like Mark III V string hole. I don't think
Well,
Quantity.
that'd
Just
be
like
good.
28 sidewall holes.
Yeah, I'd
just
never
give him
try
everything.
that again.
I think last time I was on, I said some amalgamation of the gate D and whatever they're cooking up. And I'd probably still stick with that answer. I'm excited to see what gate keeps putting out here in the future.
Yeah.
Seen some pictures of a pretty crazy goalie head floating
I,
around, and
it
I
looks
don't
I'm trying to get my hands on one.
I don't string a ton of goalie heads, but yeah, no, that thing is sweet. I gotta get my hands on that. I gotta string that. Um, but yeah, it kind of seems like, I don't mean to fanboy here over Gate, but um, it seems like they're having fun with things. They're not just locked in. So I wouldn't say a perfect head, but I'm just excited to see what they bring out next. So
It's going to be cool and probably illegal in like 3 months.
yeah,
But get it while the getting's good.
Yeah, I
yeah.
mean the rumor right now is they're working with the NCAA on this goalie head, which this all sounds great, but then the NCAA just form it. They don't like fun, so just waiting for them to drop the hammer on that one.
You know that meme of Ben Affleck just like standing outside dejectedly smoking a cigarette? That's like the NCAA rules committee every time Gate comes knocking with a new idea. They're just like, oh my God, not again.
Hey, love the innovation, but I'm a poll. So whenever I didn't buy the Gate D when it came out because just I knew the NCAA didn't like fun, but from what I have two now, I use them for my box teams that I play with, and that head was I wish it was still legal. It's so much fun to play with. I get
No,
why though the hooks I have actually hooked my guys' team helmets before. That's not great, but other than that, it's great.
I remember when the X20 came out and thinking like, oh wow, these teeth are like, how is this legal? And then Gate just
Gate
ups the
said, "Hold my
ante.
beer." Yeah. Um,
So, yeah. So obviously lacrosse was a community. You two are a picture perfect example of kind of how that community developed. So kind of how'd you guys end up meeting each other? What started the Instagram beef, if you will, and how all that kind of got hashed out?
Hmm.
I didn't know the beef had ended. I didn't know we had worked that out yet. No,
Technically, we did take that picture at your wedding, shaking
we did.
hands,
Yeah, no, the
saying
wedding
the beef was
picture,
squashed,
the
but
beef
it's
was
not. That was a
squashed.
lie. And it was
Yeah,
only, I think I posted it to my story, so it was only out for 24 hours. So it ended for
yeah.
that day and then it quickly resumed.
Well, the problem is, I think I probably reposted it to my story, so the 24 hours resets. So we might be in like a gap there where people did see it. So hard to say if the beef is squashed or not. Inconclusive.
I think at this point it would require me to post for the beef to like truly continue, other than me just making snarky comments in your post comment section.
See, I
Yeah.
kind of love it though. You and like obviously Sash, good buddy. I talked to him. Like his standing joke is that he's always just like there lurking behind the scenes. He's like he'll post every now and then, but like more so he's just in comment sections or just talking crazy in
Oh,
comments, and it's
Pocket
fantastic.
Nirvana, Pocket Nirvana is definitely lurking. You see his little profile picture, like to post
You
here
see a
and
little
there.
green dot when you're looking through your messages, and you just think, oh, he's
Yeah.
active.
Yeah, I'm on there. I'm keeping an eye on things, making sure
Yes.
everyone's behaving.
So
But
the play.
So
Oh, good.
so we had met. Sorry to sort of circle back to what we had said. We had met at working at Played again. Well, several years before we were working there together. I was just coming in buying stuff constantly. Because at that point I was just stringing as much stuff as I possibly could. And um, the beef really, the beef was what's the best way to put? How do you describe a real fake beef? Um, it it wasn't manufactured, but it was sort of like, hey, we should just start messing with each other. Stringing community might be a little dry, but we know each other pretty well. We can just sort of start messing with each other, and then it just I don't want to give him too much credit, but Ryan's very clever. Uh, he could write puns for Bob's Burgers. Like he's
great
usually
job.
got something loaded when I try and hit him with a joke.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I think when we first talked about it, it was like, well, like the 10 people that actually know that we know each other will think might think this is somewhat funny, and everyone else will just be like, why did these two dudes just randomly hate each other? And I think a few more people are in on the joke now. It's more just to, keep things lively, you know.
Yeah.
Everyone's
Yeah,
too nice. That my hot
there's
take is everyone is too nice. There's not enough constructive criticism and feedback. So in a world where it's all just fire emojis, give your friends a harder time about the stuff they do. It'll
Those are
make
the
them
best
better.
kind of friendships.
It is. It really is. Honestly, Alec, now that I think back on it, I think it's when the Torque 2 came out, like the revamped Torque, and we both strung one. And I put a story on my poll. It was a picture of both of them, and I said, which one is better? And I'm pretty sure you got more votes than I did, which I
oh
call BS.
that lit the fire. That lit the
Yeah,
fire.
I think Zuckerberg was pulling strings on the voting machines there, but that's from that point on, I was like, no, this beef needs to continue until I win, and I just don't think it's ever gonna happen.
Now he's just designing his own mesh. So when are we getting the Pocket Nirvana mesh coming out?
Never. I can guarantee that. I'll
I don't
just
know. I wouldn't sell
promote
yourself
Alec.
too short. Yeah. Maybe I could name the next design after Pocket Nirvana.
Ooh, there we go.
I'm down
Nirvana
for
mesh
that.
has a nice ring to it.
It
It
doesn't
does.
sound bad. Doesn't sound bad. Um,
And everyone knows how to pronounce Nirvana.
yeah. Entrez. It's tricky, but it's not the hardest word in the world to say.
It's not. Some would say it's pretty easy.
That was actually a pretty tricky sentence to say. Hardest word in the world to say. Say that
There you
five
go.
times fast. No, but yeah, it sort of stemmed from giving each other constructive criticism. It was constantly, hey, I just strung this, look at this. Hey, I just strung this, you look at this. And then we would, I don't know how many times we've met up and we've each been holding a lacrosse stick and we just sort of hand them to one another, and then
Yeah.
you just do that a couple of times, and then you grab a
Doing a
ball
thing where
and
you're backhanding the pocket.
yeah.
That's
So
awesome. So yeah, obviously, social media was a big aspect of how you guys were kind of able to keep that going. But have you kind of seen it change over the years with like obviously seeing a lot more and more stringing pages? Like, I feel like I have a different stringing page that I've never seen before. Just started an account and they're posting good work, I would say. But how have you kind of seen Instagram or social media change over the years?
I mean, the OG social media was the forums back in the day.
Yeah,
Like that's where I learned how to string. I watched all the episodes of this podcast leading up to this one.
appreciate it.
Of course, gotta support. Um, Obviously, the resources now, the Greg ECD Greg videos, Ustring were huge. Um, and not that I'm old, I'm 30, but uh, the tutorials on like the Stick Doctors Lounge on the lacrosse forums is where I learned how to string, other than the manual in the Brian Monster Mesh stringing kit, um, which it was cool because I always prefer picture over video. That's why I like pictures over reels. Um, but it's something that you can go back to and reference and zoom in on. Um, and having that as a resource was huge. And now, if you, I assume the forums are probably still up, but I also assume that all like the photo bucket albums and Imgur links are long gone, um, which is a bummer. I wish forums in general were as popular now as they were 15 years ago, but that's
Yeah.
just unfortunately not the case. I don't think I'm gonna be able to affect that change.
Yeah, I would say I've seen, like you said, you feel like you see a new account here every other day or so. And they are putting out good work. And I think that's a product of so much available information um, that exists out there. And and this is sort of harkens back to the philosophy, the stringing philosophy question. And um, you know, again, once you understand the basics, you can then start to have fun with it. And having the resources to be able to learn how to do the fun things like the inside weaves, uh, different drop tops. I know Ryan's not the biggest fan of drop tops in the world, but
I just don't like the
um,
Liberty top string. I do plenty of drop tops.
okay, okay.
Ooh, I have to ask,
Um,
what's the Liberty top string? What's the problem with it? I can never get a definitive answer out of anyone on it.
You're not gonna get one out of me either. I just don't like them.
Okay, I guess that.
I'm set in my ways. I like the sidewall Jedi, like original top, where it's weaved on the half row, and you can do a ton of good variations with that. Other than that, a good nine diamond top, triangle top string. What else do you need?
There you go.
That's not based in
a
logic.
drop top. You could try a drop top. I'm convinced that to to teach him how to do it, and one day he'll hop on the train. But
You
um,
could
Like
get him
making
on
a
the.
toddler eat broccoli, it's not gonna happen.
we'll just put cheese on it,
There you go.
trick you into it.
Perfect. Okay, I'm in.
I mean, you could give him the old. I think it was Ryder Garnsey a while ago where he had like the top string tied like 7 holes down on his
Oh,
string. If y'all remember
Oh,
that.
the
mango style.
Yeah,
yeah.
I saw that. I was like, it works for him. It works for him. But I don't know if I loved it too much.
There was definitely a time period I remember at Play It Again when I guess Ryder was, in his heyday at Notre Dame, and a number of middle schoolers that came in were like, give me the Ryder Garden State Pocket. It was like, you're gonna break your toes with how much whip that's gonna have. And you can string them to not be super whippy, but that was a fun phase.
Yeah. Well, that kind of goes back to like I'm not a super huge fan of just copying pockets for kids because truth be like I use this example a lot, but when I first started playing, I was gonna I copied a Kyle Hartzell pocket when I first started stringing. I was like, oh, like he shoots hard, like I can do that too. First like 3 shots, just straight to the ground because I'm like, oh, his stick has a little bit more yank than I probably need for my playing style right now. So
Yeah,
yeah.
that's fair.
So you guys have been doing this for a while now, but like any shout outs to some stringers or developers over the years, or even people currently putting out work that you guys are enjoying, either got to know or just enjoy seeing?
Oh man, there's so many. Feel like I'd be leaving someone out by making a list. I think I got to shout out Liam, aka Lucky Laces. He's holding down the fort at Play It Again, Frederick, putting out great pockets. That's just been a thing there. I feel like that store is always punched above its weight in terms of quality, and knowing that like that continues there, it's huge. It's so important for a store like that. It's hard to compete against the big box stores. And having that, I might be biased because I spent a lot of time and effort like helping build a reputation there, but I do think it does make a difference. And Liam is realistically, he's a much better stringer than I am. So knowing that he's there, like the people of Frederick and the people that go to that store are in great hands. So shout out him, Lucky Laces.
Yeah.
Can't forget about Aiden at the store too. But
Oh yeah,
I don't
Aiden's not on Instagram though.
yeah, he's not on Instagram, but yeah, if you're in Frederick County and you get a stick strung by Aiden or Liam, you're in good hands.
Love
Yeah,
that.
I'd put them up against any store in Maryland or anywhere.
The
It's just
the point again in Frederick is a lacrosse store that sells other sports pretty much. It's not to say they don't have a good inventory of other sports because I bought a baseball mitt there the other day to play in a softball uh, league. So or not league, but softball day for work. So um, but yeah, I was joking with the manager there the other day about how it's a lacrosse store that sells other sports.
yeah.
So
That's kind of what I hope the one that just opened down here where I found those two heads. Like right now, it's obviously because the sport growing in the South, specifically Tennessee, like we're growing, but it's nowhere near like a Maryland and New York right now, like the true hotbeds of the sport. But so right now, it's probably the opposite. It's a store that happens to sell across here, but hopefully eventually we can get it to the point where it's competing. It's like almost as much inventory as everything else would be awesome.
You said you found some cool stuff there though, right? Because I know I think in any plate again in a hotbed or place that generally has people that knows about lacrosse, like the good stuff does not last long, either because they have regulars that check it often, or the employees that are hip and all the good stuff doesn't hit the floor. Um, it's almost like
Yeah.
an advantage. I've seen some crazy deals on, play it agains and places that aren't big on lacrosse just because they don't know the sport. The person selling the stuff didn't know the sport all that well, which is how you end up with like, a Titan Pro for $30 because they're just like, this shaft looks old, so we're gonna sell it for cheap.
Yeah. Oh no.
Hey, you guys are killing
So
me with the price. I guess I'll pay $30 for it.
yeah, it's the worst. So what would be some advice you would give to like younger players or like even newer stringers just like getting into it?
I think Alex did practice in his podcast, which is super cliche, but it is true. I think just like I mentioned earlier, like learning the fundamentals is so important. Like walk before you run kind of thing. Obviously, the goal is to have fun. Like it is a fun hobby. If you're doing it to make money, that's one thing, and I hope your product is good. But if you're stringing for fun, do whatever you want. But I think if you're trying to get like a great end product, taking the time to like learn the fundamentals before diving in to some crazy advanced technique is just going to benefit you in the long run.
yeah,
And don't be
if
afraid
you
to unstring stuff repeatedly.
that's bad advice. That's bad advice. Buy a new head, string it. No, that yeah, I just repeat everything he just said back to you again. Don't jump into the deep end before you can swim, kind of a deal. But when you are ready, there is a lot of resources out there. Just I think I did say practice. I think I said don't be afraid to maybe do some research and
Mhm.
spend some time looking into uh, how certain knots work, how certain techniques work, and there's a ton of information out there. So
Yeah. And the biggest part that piece of advice I'd give them is reach out to people within the community, but do it in like a very respectful way. Don't just reach out just like all lowercase, no punctuation, be like, hey man, can you help me? Just like ask them a question, like be genuine about it. Because most people in this community, like I say it every time, probably in this podcast, broken record, but like starting this podcast, I had so many people being like, "Yeah, man, love to come on at like some point, like we'll work out a time." I'm like, "Oh, this is great," because it is nice being a part of that smaller community within a already small community.
Yeah, and people that are into this love to talk about it, love to talk about it with like-minded people. And yeah, I think pretty much everyone's accessible for the most part. Even though I rarely post at this point, I am still online often. Happy to give help and advice when needed. Or in Alex's case, just tell him something looks bad. Um,
I need that criticism.
He just seeks
fuels
it.
me.
It fuels me.
Hey, who
Yeah,
knows? Maybe without
as
that
long as people
criticism,
aren't
we're not
asking for
getting.
free stuff, I'm
Yeah,
good.
yeah. Without that criticism, we might not get on train mesh rolled around. So
That's true. Honestly, I think I can take partial credit for it by
You
me
you
being
get
so
at
critical.
least you get at least 30%. of the credit for the creation. That's on record. No.
When the
Um,
credits roll, I'll be like, best boy number six down at the very bottom of the credits. I'm like, that's me.
yeah. No. It definitely helps when you have someone who can be critical of your work. Um, and I think we've found a pretty good rapport between us where we can be critical and know that it comes from a place of sort of trying to help one another. Um, and I don't want to call the beef squashed, but it might be after tonight.
As soon as I get ahead to string, we're beefing again.
Yeah, but
You know,
you've been talking about buying something new for like the past month and a half, and
yeah, I spend my money in worse ways, unfortunately. I, cars are a more expensive hobby than stringing. So that would be another
yeah,
advice. If you're thinking about getting into stringing, do it because as far as hobbies go, it can be cheap.
Yeah. If you do it right, it can be. It can definitely get out of hand quickly, though. If you develop an eye for some old pieces, you might have to drop some change on them.
That's true. But yeah, an RC1 and some Mesh Dynasty will get you pretty far.
Yeah. Shout out Relax Collections, changing the game.
Yeah, we were talking about it before
absolutely.
we
Yeah.
jumped on here. I bought one just because it was cheap. I was like, this looks legit. I was just shocked at the quality. I
It
haven't
feels
seen
like
the
a
real one in
high-end
person
head.
yet. Yeah, it does. Like the string holes are great. The face shape is great. I don't use anything enough to really speak to its durability, but it feels solid.
Hmm.
Um, and
I
that's
really love the numbered sidewalls. Uh, as much as I string, I count probably more than string. So to not really have to count and just to be able to match them is pretty excellent.
Yeah. A nice little small feature right there. That's super cool. So as we are winding down here, Alec, we did this with you last time, so now it's Ryan's turn. He gets to have a witness for this one. We're gonna do a rapid fire round.
all right.
Uh, so it'll be probably five or six, and you're just gonna say the first thing that's gonna come to your mind.
Let's do it.
All right, what's your favorite mesh outside of Entree?
9D memory.
Interesting choice. All right, what's your go-to knot?
Not at SI.
Okay, what's the most underrated head of all time?
Stallion 700.
I think
That's a
that
good
was
one.
It was properly
That's a
rated.
really good one.
wasn't
I feel
that
like it was properly rated in its day, but
yeah, wasn't that one of your answers, Alec?
Uh, I don't
I think you said
remember.
it's I think it was a Stallion 900 maybe is what you said.
Um,
I know
I
someone
don't
said
I
a
don't recall.
Stallion.
I think Alec, you did say the Stallion 900. I went back further because my memory is better. Um, Stallion 700 was great. Even they released it with the Enduriform plastic, and that head still holds up to this day. The top string holes in the middle are too far apart, but you can get around that if you're creative. Um, yeah, final answer.
That was a really good answer.
Yeah,
Got to
love
give it
that.
to you on that one.
That was off
All
the
right.
dome too. That was not the head I had in mind when I was thinking about that question earlier.
All right, and on the flip side, what's the most overrated head of all time?
Wow, why this is the Under Armour Command, all of them.
Really?
Some people swore by them. I hated string them, playing with them. Didn't like the way
The,
they
c-
looked. Didn't
the
like the way they
command
felt.
twos were a little tricky to string. With the sidewall holes were just the top string hole wasn't quite right, and then the first couple sidewall holes were were a little funky to string.
Yeah,
Well, and little throwback answers on both of those. Love that. All right, and then last one, what's your favorite head to string?
I strung so many DNAs and DNA twos. It's got to be those. That's because I can string them any which way with any mesh. I feel like I would really enjoy stringing the 3V more if I didn't have a perfect pocket in it with some special Entrea. Um, yeah, the DNA series, face shape, it's just so versatile. You can do anything with
Hmm.
them.
DNAs are
How
something.
many do you think you strung?
I can't count that high.
Yeah.
Realistically, probably a couple hundred.
Good
Um,
Yeah.
Lord. What
all
led you to stringing so
the
many of them?
I'm sorry, what was that?
What led you to string in so many of the DNAs and DNA twos? Were just
It was
popular
really
buys,
popular at
or
the store. They were a common purchase. They were easy to sell. Yeah, the twos were a little bit lighter, but even the ones just, a head that is going to hold up. That kind of works for multiple positions. Younger player like in middle school, it's like, I play some midi, play some attack, might play defense. It was like I buy one head to rule them all.
love it? Yeah, DNA. My only problem with the first DNA, I think they fixed it on the two. It's just I know they said it didn't warp, but I had two of them that just like shattered on me, and it was just heartbreaking.
That's a tough way to go.
Yeah, I'd almost rather it just bend and I have to get a new one, but just breaking and just never used again. It's terrible. All right. So, Alec, Ryan, thank you guys so much for coming on. This is awesome. Where can listeners find your guys' work, or if you have any places outside of your Instagram, what are some of those?
Just Pocket Nirvana on Instagram. I'm not on other socials. You won't find me on TikTok. You can find me at Play It Again in Frederick like once every 5 or 6 weeks on the weekend. Stopping by to say what's up. And usually Alec will be in there too.
Yeah, I was gonna say you can probably catch me in the plate again, Frederick, a couple of times a week if you plan it right. But I'm just Heritage Spoons on Instagram. I think there's a Facebook page attached to it. Not entirely sure on that one. Um, don't Facebook too often, but yeah, then we've got Entrea.net if you're interested in picking up some Entrea mesh.
Yeah, go buy it. It's
Should.
awesome.
It
All right.
is.
Well, guys,
Uh,
thanks again for
Thank you.
joining the Stick Theory podcast. To everyone listening, make sure you like, comment, subscribe on the video. We got some more fun episodes coming out soon. But yeah, thank you guys for coming on.
Thank you
Thank you
so
for
much for
having
having
us.
us, man. A great time.